Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Saturday Morning Coffee with Back to Basics Dog Training. Where each and every week I come to you live to take you on this journey of live dog training, the journey of dog training. I don't know how to say it. So each and every Saturday morning, I bring you this live platform. I answer all your dog training questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll answer each and every single one of them. No questions are off limits. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Leon. I'm the head trainer here over at Back to Basics Dog Training. If you're watching right now live, put a comment in. Let me know you're watching. It'll do me a lot of good. Let me know where you're watching from. And of course, if you have any questions, put them in there, even if you're watching on the replay later on. So every week I start off the same way. I bring you a topic of the week, and then we wait for the questions to come in because those are what's most important. So this week's question, topic of the week is going to be about the walk, mastering the walk. A big thing I've been hearing and seeing a lot of recently is my dog with the fall season. My dog walks a few houses or a few blocks or whatever and just locks up, stops walking. Something spooks it, something does something. It just doesn't want to walk. And I'm not sure exactly why that is happening, but I know. Good morning, Michelle, Rob, Athena, and Bergen. Sorry by the way, guys. Last week, it was a very last minute thing. I was invited to a webinar on Saturday morning that was very important to me. So I apologize last week about the short notice and not being here. But I will tell you next week I will be coming live, but it'll be an hour later. It'll be at 12 o'clock. I was invited to another webinar that is important for me, for my growth, and for my company's growth. So next Saturday I will be at 12 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock. And I will post that out on my Facebook. Good morning, Patrice. So getting back to what I was saying, so we got some dogs walking, and they get a couple of houses down, a couple of blocks or whatever away, and they just put on the brakes. They don't want to go any further. Couple big mistakes when that happens is people will look at it and say, oh, "Okay, let's just go home." And that's really, really not the right thing to do, guys. You got to remember, if the dog stops and says, "That's it, I don't want to go anymore," and you turn around and go home, they're controlling that walk at that point. And I know it's rough because we don't know why they're locking up. Especially I see it more in the fall. Like I said, with the leaves falling, maybe different smells, Halloween decorations, Thanksgiving decorations, Christmas decorations. Something is stopping them from moving forward. But that's your job as their pack leader to move them forward. So when your dog locks up, and I think we had Macy, I believe I said that right. Patrice's dog did something very similar to that. So I explained leash pressure. Leash pressure is where you're going to apply a little bit more pressure on the leash. Good morning, Sharon. Sharon, I'll get to your question in a second. I just want to finish this train of thought. So when the dog stops, we're going to apply a little leash pressure to the dog, a little bit more than what they're resisting. And once you see any motion, I don't care if it's sideways, forward, backwards, whatever, you're going to release that pressure. Good, let's go. And then try to continue the walk with them. If they lock up again, you repeat the process. It's like, shampoo and condition, rinse and repeat. It's so important to at least get a couple of steps further, then you make the decision to turn around. This way you're showing you're in charge and you're turning around on your terms. It's hard. Some dogs, may take 10, 15 seconds of that lockup until they get it, a couple of times of doing it, and then they just get it. Other dogs may take longer. I worked with a dog last week or the week before. It took a good minute and a half for me to unlock its brain. And we repeated the process 3 or 4 times, and then finally it got, okay, all I got to do is follow. And they did it happily. So it's not forcing, not dragging, but not turning around. So Sharon's question is, I'm from Long Island and I have a neuro impaired dog from birth. She is very aggressive with my other pups, all the same size. Suggestions? Well, it depends on once we start getting into neurological orders, I do recommend checking in with a vet, making sure the pup's on medication, of course, if it is truly, truly a neurological disorder. Um, but you can still try to desensitize them. Um, One of the ways you can do that is at all times when they're with the other pups, all pups should be on a leash. If we start seeing an unwanted reaction from this pup and it showing this aggression and it's an unwanted behavior because unfortunately it just doesn't know any better right now, you are allowed to make a slight leash correction. Top of the leash, not to throw the dog into the wall, just to, well, unlock its brain because its brain is focused. I got to get this dog. So the pop of the leash is designed to unlock the dog's brain with a firm no. And then you follow through the discipline when the puppy is calm. You praise or reward. You can use treats for this. But try to get this puppy to focus on you and not these other puppies. So the pop of the leash should get the dog to do, hey, what? Hey, now I got your attention. We don't do that here. You stay calm, don't overthink the process. And then when you get them into the state of mind you want, which is a calmer state of mind, good, give a reward, pet the dog, praise the dog. And then slowly but surely you let it try to learn from this. And if it's neurological disorders, it may take a while, where you just let it go through the process and see if it actually learns to self-correct. I've worked with some dogs with neurological disorders. It's a hard thing to do because we feel bad for them. But once we get through the learning process, and again, to me, guys, I know I simplify things a lot. I'm very, I tried to bring this to a way we can all understand. If I have a child with a learning disability or an impairment, um, I'm going to work them through the process of reading, writing, arithmetic, or whatever. And I know it's going to take longer than that child that doesn't have the same disability or ability, depending on how you want to look at it. And you're just going to take the time and you're going to stay calmer because your energy is going to make or break the situation with that dog or with that child because we understand they're not intentionally doing this. So we can't get frustrated with the process. We can't get aggravated with the process. We just go through the process with them to guide them to how we need them to behave in the dogs, in the kids' case, read, write, do whatever. Um, and you just focus on your energy, stay calm, teach them. Neurological disorder or not, they can learn. I had a dog that I worked with years ago on Long Island when I was up on Long Island that had a neurological disorder. As far as I was concerned, it was a form of epilepsy, but it wasn't epilepsy where it was doing, seizures. It would get in its brain startled and attack. It would attack another dog while it was sleeping. Dogs, as a general rule of thumb, will not attack another dog while they're sleeping because there is no perceived threat. This dog snapped. We don't know what was going on in its brain because it can't really communicate to us in the way we needed it to communicate, which is telling us, what do you feel? Um, so the thing is we had to work through it. So that dog, even whenever it was around the other dog, it was on a leash, so we had control. And then if we saw all of a sudden it just that change in its look, we make a correction, and we did this quite often. It took a while, but eventually it understood that this is, even though it had this neurological disorder, it was unacceptable. Yes, it was a combination of that and whatever medication the vet gave, um, but it's a long process. That dog took it so bad that if it got startled when it was sleeping, would also react negatively towards human or dog. It didn't make a difference. So that dog was an extreme case, but we managed to, work through it with them, went on the journey with them, with this dog to have the rest of its life be better in a calmer state. But we really had to work hard on it. And the hardest thing for its parents was, don't overthink it. Just stay with your energy, stay calm. The calmer you are, they do read it, even if they're neurologically. have a neurological disorder. But it's really hard, Sharon, and it's definitely something I would get in touch with a vet. There are medications that can bring it down, doggy downers, if it is truly a neurological disorder. Um, the one thing I will say, mm, I don't run into many dogs that have true neurological disorders. Um, Vets diagnose it very quickly and put them on doggy downers. I know if I was there, if I was going to do an evaluation on this pup, I would ask you not to have it on the doggy any medication for 2 weeks, let it wean out of the system so I can see what the dog is truly telling us. Um, Vets tend to push the medication where I try to push the psychological part of it. And even with neurological disorders, you can get through to their brain. It just takes you a little longer. The patience, but the reward is so much greater than a truly, if it is truly a neurological disorder, because once you get through, it gets it. And it's not saying they'll get it for life, because, like this one dog I worked with, as it got older, they had to adjust more of the medication, but they ended up doing it. And this, the best thing is original dosage of medication before we did training. This dog was stoned when I first met it. Thank you. She's fully vetted, MRI and spinal tap, and takes Prozac and CBD. CBD oils are great, guys. I got to do some more research on it. But you, even if it's fully vetted, and they did definitely say this, please, you can still try to psychologically teach the stone. Same way we do with our children. It just takes you that much longer, but it does work. So I really hope that answered your question. I know that's a real hard thing because emotionally we get very invested into it. Um, it- you know, it's hard for us because we feel bad for them and we should feel bad for them. But when you're working with them, please try not to feel bad for them. It's the hardest thing for humans to do, and I understand that. But I know when I work with these dogs, I shut my emotions down because I have to. Because if I show that weaker energy, I'm not going to be able to help them move forward. Patrice says the leash pressure worked on the walk. Maisie has been working with now. I take a lot of it takes a lot of repetition. She is responding faster now. Absolutely, and that's the key, guys. Is the consistency, the repetition of doing these exercises that I describe each week. If you don't stay consistent with it, and today we're going to do it, and then tomorrow I'm on the move. That's not going to make the problem, these issues go away. You have to stay consistent with it. It's like anything else in life. Consistency, repetition is so important. I talk to people all the time about working with your instincts. And a lot of our instincts are learned behaviors that become instinctual. Same with the dogs. You got to remember, their instincts is they're wild animals. Now we expect to put a rope around their neck and have them heel, or walk and behave and not react and not do this. These are all unnatural things. These are not in their DNA. Walking on a leash is the furthest thing from a dog's DNA. They're meant to be out, running around. So we're asking them to coexist in our homes and respect our homes and respect our guests and do all this stuff, but that's not instinctual for them. Instincts are totally different. So what we have to do is keep doing these behaviors so these learned behaviors become instinctual. And again, the best way I can describe what I talk about with that is when we're young, we learn to look both ways before we cross the street. And when we're young, we consciously are thinking about it. Every time we get to the curb, we got to look both ways before we cross the street. We got to look both ways. We think about it. We think about it. We think about it. Now, as an adult, I just get to the curb. I just look both ways. I don't think about it anymore. It's become a learned behavior that has become instinctual within me. And that's what we need to do with our dogs, but it takes repetition. It takes doing it time and time and time again. I read a study years ago about how humans learn, and they said the average human to learn to do something, to spell the word dog, I usually use the word cat, but I'm a dog trainer, so I'm going to use the word dog, takes 100 times of repetition before you know how to spell dog. And if you think about, go back to the days of elementary school, you wrote the words down a million times. Those are how we become, those learned behaviors become instinctual. Now we don't need to think about how to spell the word dog. But when we're 1 year old, dog. D O. We're thinking about it. So put yourself in your dog's shoes. We're taking them out of their environment. We're bringing them into our environment. We expect them to coexist with us and understand our rules, but they are not going to understand it. That's why we need to do these things. And again, different dogs, different personalities learn quicker. Some dogs learn the sit command right away. Other dogs may take 100 times, and that's okay. That dog's an individual. Um, you know, I think I've used the example with Zoe. Zoe took to certain behaviors very quickly. One of the quickest behaviors she actually learned was the recall to come back to me from a distance. But she learned that very quickly with the command. But her lay down command took her forever. So, and what I do, I just kept repeating, same movement, same everything until she understands. Oh, I hear that word down. That means I gotta lay down. Okay. But the come command, I think I did it maybe 10 times. So I tried it with a 25-foot leash and she came and I was like, holy crap. And when I say she came right back to me. Not deviating. She was at that time probably about 3 months old. Because anybody who knows me, the basic obedience commands I work on the most, and I put a lot of effort into with any dog I've ever raised. And that when I say raised, that could be a dog I adopted at an older age or a puppy. If I adopt them and they're 2, 3 years old, I'm raising them. But the first command and the command I personally work the hardest on, that I think is the most important basic obedience command, is the recall, the come command. Because I know that saves their lives. And if God forbid they ever get out, I call them, they come back to me. I am so freaking happy. And the other thing I work very hard on is, of course, mastering the walk. The sit, the down, the stay, not overly concerned. I do teach it because they should know it. But what I put my energy into is the recall, come command, and mastering the walk. Because I know those are the most important foundation. That gives me that foundation to build my mansion after that. I get them walking good on a leash, which means they understand leadership and structure, or structure and leadership, depending on how you want to look at it. And they understand when I call them to come, that gives me that foundation to take them on the journey of building that $1 million mansion. Because I need that good foundation. Otherwise, that $1 million mansion will be falling apart on me. So, and I still work on a lot of those behaviors with Zoe to this day. She's 9 years old. A couple of weeks ago, I did a local fair down here, and I brought Zoe with me because I was advertising back to basics. Most people didn't even know she was there. She was laying down so good that nobody knew she was there. Um, but at one point, I took her into an open field that was very close to where all the boot tents were set up. And we were at a baseball field, and I put her where third base would be, and I walked down to where first base would be, and she sat there, she waited, and I called her, and she came right to me. And it was beautiful to witness. So, even if you have an older dog, guys, the come command is crucial. And it is a thing I get a lot from my customers. My dog doesn't come when I call them. Why? They go out in the yard, I yell, I scream, blah, 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 and they don't come in. Till I go outside. It's raining. I don't want to go outside, whatever it is. And I try to explain to people, dogs don't come to people that they don't consider their pack leaders. And what I mean by that is when I grew up, I had an older brother and sister. If they called me in, I most of the time have not, didn't listen to them, didn't come in. But I'll tell you one thing, my mom and dad called me in, my butt was inside. Why? Because my parents were my pack leaders and I knew I had to listen to them. My pack mates, I didn't have to listen to them. Dogs do the same thing. They will bum rush, they will tackle, they will do everything to their pack mates. They'll respect their pack leaders. So you have to establish that. And that starts, if you get a puppy and a puppy comes home at 8 weeks old, that's when it starts. Yes, they're cute. They're adorable. We love them. We want to smother them, and we want to give them all this affection and affection and affection. You should, but teach them too. Because the hugging and the kissing, I've said it before, and some people get a little annoyed with me. The love and the affection, the hugging and the kissing and the squeezing and the choo-choo, oh my God, that's for us. That's for us. That makes us feel real freaking good. But that is not what your dog is in the natural DNA. Their mother dog doesn't pick them up and hug them and kiss them. They don't. They understand their form of affection is rules, boundaries, and limitation because that's about survival, and that is discipline, and that is affection, I should say. So you can couple affection with discipline because to me they're very similar. If done right, discipline is never designed to hurt or scare anything in the face of this earth. If this discipline is done right, it's out of love. Why do I punish my kids? Not because I wanted to punish my kids, because I loved my kids and I needed them to know the difference between right and wrong. So I disciplined my kids, which to me, in my mindset, showed I love my kids. And my kids have turned out great. But I did the same thing with every single, excuse me, every single dog I've ever raised. I gave them discipline before the affection. Cesar Millan says it the best: exercise, discipline, and then affection. Exercise, discipline, and affection. That goes with my three C's of calm, confidence equals control. Guys, let me know in the comments if this makes sense, please. I want to make sure we're all on the same page because you all know my goal that together we can help one dog and one family at a time. So if I pass on these tidbits to you and you have a friend or a relative that has a dog, um, you can pass these tidbits of knowledge on to them, and it works. I've had balanced dogs my whole entire life, and it's something I've worked hard on, and I'm very proud of. Um, and that's the beauty of being able to shut off the emotional part of me at points when I work with these dogs. When Zoe was a puppy, she was adorable. I think I told you guys this story, and if I haven't, I'm going to repeat myself. And if I have, I'm sorry for repeating myself. When we first got Zoe, she had parvo. We didn't know it at the time. Didn't understand a thing about parvo. No clue what it was. Never dealt with it in my life. All I know is my dog was sick. She was throwing up, had diarrhea. I mean, it was horrible watching this poor pup go through all this. And I tried to do, okay, we'll take care of her. She just must have ate something, whatever. I came up with a million excuses. I was literally with an eyedropper, making sure she stayed hydrated, trying to I got some wet puppy food and I was making her eat, which was good. She was at least eating, but she wasn't keeping anything down. And I took her to the vet a day later because this was not getting better. Found out she had parvo. Did my research. Found out what parvo was and was mortified at the mortality rate of parvo. Long story short, she was in the hospital for about 10 days, and she survived. So when I brought her home to my family, brought her in, my wife and my daughters were there, and of course they saw her. Oh my God, my poor baby almost died. Which is a normal human reaction, and I'm not belittling them because believe me, it was torturous watching what my dog was going through. Um, so after about 15, 20 minutes of that crying and everybody passing the puppy around like she was a hot potato, I looked at them and I said, "Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to feel bad for this dog. You're going to feel bad that this dog almost died for another hour, day. I gave him a day. Because tomorrow we're going to celebrate she lived. And if you think about it for a second, almost died but lived are the same exact things, different energy involved in it. So I went right back into shutting down the emotions to working with my dog. Not we're feeling bad that she almost died because she lived. I was freaking ecstatic. So it's you can change. I've worked with abused dogs that I felt horrible for when I was in my car. Never when I worked with them. I worked with a dog for a dear friend of mine up on Long Island. The dog actually happened to be here down here in North Carolina, and the dog's back up on Long Island now. And I told you guys the story about Ramsey, who was malnutritioned. He should have been probably about 90 pounds. He weighed about 40 pounds. You could see his ribs. It was horrible to look at. And Everybody felt bad for him because they looked at him, oh my God, this poor baby. And I'm like, holy crap, look at this puppy. He survived. He beat the odds. Look at this guy, and he's flourishing, and he's got this great new life ahead of him. Instead of saying, oh my God, look at him. And we were able to move the dog forward. And from what I understand, up on Long Island, the foster parent is doing a phenomenal job. They got the dog some training because it didn't know anything, and it's up for adoption now. He's up to 60 something pounds. He's doing great, and that's because the wonderful person who got me involved in this. Actually, she listened to me, and we shut off the emotions while we're working with him. When I wasn't working, I got back to my car after working with him, and I was like, I can't believe this. It broke my heart. But uh, so I can go on my soapbox all day, guys, on this. But please, I know it's hard when you're working with your dog. Show off the emotions. Patrice asks, do you have any other suggestions to mentally tire the dog out? We do the structure walk, but Macy is still overly energetic, especially at night when we are tired. So a couple of games you can play with the dog to use their brain and use their nose a little bit more. We can do it in a calm manner. A couple of games I try to do if I'm by myself and I have a highly energetic dog is I play a shell game with them. Take three, solo cups, and I take a high value treat or a treat. I put it under the cups. I play the shell game, and when they're calm, and I invite them over to sniff the cups. And if they get the cup with the treat, yay, they get the treat. So make sure they're healthy treats, preferably low fat, because this can, you know. But you're making the dog use its brain, use its sense of smell, because when it goes through the nose, it goes to the brain, to try to find something. And what you can do is have them sit at a distance, stay, show them the treat. It's okay. Put it under the cup. Slowly move the cups around. In the beginning, maybe not move the cups around. Let them just find it. Another game I like to play if you have two people is you go down a hallway. Each person on the end of the hallway has two cups. We have the treats, and we take the treat, we put it under the cup, and we get the dog's attention. We point to the cup. The other person from the other side lets the dog go. They find the treat. Yay, they get it. We do this a bunch of times, and then what I'll do is have the dog turn their back to the process and put the treat under the cup. Now, the dog didn't see us put the treat under the cup. When the dog turns around, we just point to the cup that it's in. Now they're following the direction, so they're thinking, okay, which one are you going to point to? So you start using their brain a little bit more. I found that definitely mentally tires them out. And you can work a lot of basic obedience, repeat basic obedience in the home. People forget that. Put the dog on the leash, make the dog sit, make the dog stay for a while. Always work up to your duration, how long they're going to sit and stay, or change the duration, because you want them to more follow your commands. The more they're trying to think, what are you going to do next? Their brain is working. So you can have the dog sit at the end of your living room or at a threshold or whatever, and you're saying, okay, Macy, come. She comes, great, sit. Give her something to do right away. Ooh. Or, and this will take some working, another mental game, and I did this with Zoe in my house, is my house was up on Long Island. I don't know how long it was, but I'm going to say it was at least, I don't know, 150 feet wide. I don't know. I'd have her at one end, I'd be at the other end inside, and I would release her, and about halfway I'd have her stay, whoa, sit, whoa, come. So it's just different games I played with her in the house because she's like any other puppy. She was a very high energy puppy. My middle daughter used to call her the demon dog because she looked at my daughter as a pack mate, not a pack leader. She used to chew her hands apart. She had a lot of energy Zoe as a puppy. So I used to play all these different games with her. Why? Show leadership, but also to stimulate her mentally. So I hope those tips help out, Patrice. These are just some of the games you can play. You can, with their favorite toy, you can play hide and seek in the house, but you have to do it all calm. Don't do go find your toy, go find your toy. No, because that's excitement. That's the last thing we want. But you start it calm. When you do the shell game, the puppy's right there, but it has to be calm. Everything is based on calm. And if she's getting the zoomies between 5 and 8, usually some dogs go through these zoomies, and that could be, most people think it's a puppy thing. Um, it's not necessarily a puppy thing. It could be an anything thing. Um, put a leash on the dog. When you know it's going to get this excited energy, and when she starts getting excited, nope, down, stop it. You're being an idiot. Give her something else to do. Use the place command, not as a punishment, but hey, after 8 o'clock, there is none of this nonsense. We're tired. We want to go to bed. Calm down, dog. Um, so, guys, we're at the magic half hour mark. I hope today was informative. Like I said, remember next week I will be coming on live, but it'll be at 12 o'clock. I'm not sure how long this webinar is going to run. I will post it out on Facebook as a reminder during the middle of the week, just so everybody knows. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to always reach out to me. I know a lot of you guys watch me via Remember Me Rescues Facebook page. I would suggest strongly, I do keep an eye on the comments that come through there, but it's harder for me to see them on that page. So if you can, please find my Back to Basics dog training page. It's Back to Basics Dog Training SC for South Carolina. Like, follow that my Facebook page. This way I will see the questions more directly. I am constantly looking on this thing to see if I get any questions or comments or private messages or whatever the heck those things are called. um, it is definitely an easier way to communicate to me. And of course, you can always reach out to me via email at info@backtobasicsdogtraining.com. For any of the folks that are not here in the Carolinas with me, my Long Island friends, my friends from across the country that may be tuning in. Remember, guys, I can always do a Zoom training session. It's an economical way to do dog training. Since it is all about dog psychology and not me physically working with your dogs, we can help you so much by doing Zoom training. I know I worked with Patrice, and Patrice didn't get a full Zoom session. She got here on Facebook doing a free dog training session here. And I think it's helped her immensely with Macy. Um, so keep me in mind for Zoom. Remember, find my Facebook page. It's Back to Basics Dog Training SC. This way, you're on my page and you get to see the and if you type things, I will get to them a lot quicker than I will. Unfortunately, Remember Me Rescues. She posts so much on that site because she does such a wonderful job rescuing these dogs that the amount of comments that come through, it's overwhelming. I don't know how she does it because she gets a lot of comments. So if you come directly to mine, I'll get to you a lot quicker, is what I'm trying to say. So with that being said, guys, if there's no other questions, as always, thank you for inviting me into your home each and every Saturday morning. It's truly an honor and a privilege to do this for you in this format. I will see you next Saturday at 12 o'clock. And remember, together, we can help one dog and one family at a time. Stay healthy, stay safe. God bless, and we'll see you next weekend, guys.